Yeah, baby.
I can't. All right. Are we live?
Right.
Yeah, we are.
I'm live.
All right, be quiet real quick.
I'm alive, and so are you.
Oh, hey, listeners. It's your girl, the fabulous, the delicious Amber, at the top of the episode, reminding you to do what? Join our Patreon. This show is completely sponsored by listeners like you, giving back to our family, investing in the arts, if you will. I want to shout out 3 amazing friends out there on the wormholes of the internet that have joined the Patreon party. We have Astrolight, Nicole Wilson, and Princess Nelson. Pew, 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 pew. These are just 3 people who will be in the giveaway for the book Binti. There will be a giveaway at the end of the month for the book Binti. We read that early on in the podcast. And remember, if you would like to join our Patreon, just be sure to check out the episode notes. We link everything there. Now let's get started with the show. Welcome to the Sci-Fi Sigh under the Believe Podcast Network. It's a podcast about Black science fiction, Black fantasy, and staying on the same page of our marriage. Today, for episode 61, we'll be discussing Hardears, an Afro-Caribbean fantasy adventure graphic novel by Matthew Clarke and Nigel Lynch. But before we get into today's episode, Ben, come into frame on that camera 1, and then... How you doing today? You just put your leg on top of mine. I know we've had a day.
Yeah, I'm doing great. I'm really sleepy, really tired. I'm ready to go to work tomorrow. There was a 4-day weekend, so yeah.
You're happy? You're excited to go back to work and be away from me?
Yeah. No, not to be away from you, just to...
You hate me.
No, I don't hate you. Never hate.
The hate you give does something to little infants everywhere. Just so you know. Yes, we are recording a little bit later than we typically are because, sometimes in our relationship, we're just not being our best selves. So earlier today, we both weren't being our best self. And so we have since made up. There were tons of kisses and cuddles involved. And now we can do this show together.
Yeah.
Because you can hear when our vibe is off.
Yeah, you can't really do a show if we're fighting.
I know. Well, some podcasts I listen to, I'm like, I can totally tell they were fighting before this, but they just said like, let's push through. When it's like friendships. Yeah. But if
you wear your heart on your sleeve, you wouldn't be able to do that,
right? Oh no, if a couple is fighting, it's cringy. I mean, I'm sure we've recorded an episode where I was a little bit heated or something, and you were kind of giving me the cold shoulder. That's what you do. That's your part.
Cold? I don't give cold shoulders. Not really.
Yes, you do, Benjamin.
Come up with a different phrase. We should come up with a different phrase beside cold shoulders because it's like
it's like the silent treatment. You're being cold to me. Frosties.
But cold is a good thing. Cold kills things that need to be killed.
I don't like cold.
Cold, yes. Well, the world, it's part of the process, part of the cycle. Without the cold, you can't.
Well, you gave me the hot elbow earlier, bitch. How about
hot
that?
Elbow.
You like that better?
Why do we associate cold with bad?
Because it is. I grew up in Georgia, so I love the heat. I don't like humidity, but I do love like warm weather. That's what everybody's like.
But global warming will kill us all.
Yeah, but so will tons of other cold. You can get frostbite and die.
Yeah, but you can get heat stroke and die. People die more often from heat stroke.
Well, people can also fall into an ice pond and freeze that way.
Yeah, but that's not like
people don't die during
epidemic.
the winter, during the Chicago winters. I'm sure they do.
Not in the same way.
People have been found dead in their homes because their heat is off.
Yeah, but not in the same way in the summer. Not to change the situation, but there was like a ridiculous situation where Chicago had a
heat wave in '95,
and families and people were dying so frequently that they just had the morgues piled with bodies. They had no idea what to do with all these dead bodies. There was a documentary.
Because we were being mean to each other earlier.
Yeah. I just cold, hot.
Icy hot, right.
Icy hot. Shaquille O'Neal.
What? Oh, he did used to do those.
He does all the commercials for that.
I promise this show is about science fiction and fantasy. Do you?
Uh-huh.
Do you promise that?
It is a show.
Do you like me again?
Yeah.
Name 2 things you like about me.
You really put me on the spot. I like your smile.
That's because I'm smiling at you right now because I'm nervous.
Yeah, you're never nervous. Actually, you're actually always nervous.
Right, so
you're
I'm
just
never nervous.
A butterball of nerves and anxiety.
So you've only still said one kind thing about me.
You are really good at hiding your nervousness and anxiety.
That's like we're
And
talking like top two best
really
things about me. Great smile, and you're really great at hiding your anxiety
and your flaws,
which is probably something to do with my smile.
You're just your general flaws, your insecurities. You
teeth.
hide them so well. I would never know at times. I don't know. It's like Amber's having a hard day, but she had.
You don't know when I'm having a hard day.
Sometimes you can hide it and then it blows up. Like almost every time when you suppress your feelings, eventually they blow up. But sometimes you can suppress your feelings for months and then you pop off and you're like, you did this thing. And I was like, oh man, you were so good at hiding it. Or maybe I'm just really bad at picking up on it.
I would say that. Let me think of two nice things about you. Let me look at you. You don't let anything in this world stress you out. It could be something dire. It could be like the deadline is today. It could be like
a burning house.
Your child is on the way. You're not going to let anything rock your socks, my guy. Maybe it's apathy. Who knows? And you are really good at keeping a book in my hand. I will say that about you. I never read as much as I did before I met you.
That's awesome. I thought you said you read a lot when you were a little baby girl.
I was. Everybody reads a lot when they first learn how to read because you're like so excited.
Yeah, that's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
A lot of people don't read, even as children, even as they're learning to read.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
well,
I
mean, that's when I would say like, you're really excited about reading as a kid because then you got like the Scholastic Book Fair and you got Accelerated Reader. Like you're very incentivized to read. Yeah. And then one day people are like, yeah, you should just be reading. No prizes. And you're like, oh man, what? Why would I just read? They're like, the knowledge is the prize. You're like, and pieces.
That's the internal, external, or internal, intrinsic versus extrinsic rewards.
Yeah. Whereas you were homeschooled. You never got to get in on that.
Everything was intrinsic.
Did your mom make a frozen pizza if you read a book that day?
No, but I did go to school
bites.
in 4th grade, and they did do the Pizza Hut thing, and I would go there. And my dad, I think the idea of that, looking back at it now, the Pizza Hut coupons for reading was to get your family to go there and buy other stuff. But my family was either so poor that we would go there and just get the free pizza. And I don't think my dad even tipped.
I don't think anybody tips at Pizza Hut. Pizza Hut's not like a...
You're supposed to tip at Pizza Hut when you sit down to eat and the waitresses bring you food.
Oh, you mean back in the buffet Pizza Hut days?
Yeah, exactly. You'd go and they would have an arcade in the little front. It'd be like Mortal Kombat. My dad would hide my eyes as I walked through the door to not see the video game.
Of the sexy Mortal Kombat fighters. They were hot. I don't remember my parents tipping at pizza buffets. Maybe I just weren't looking at their cards, but I don't remember dollars.
2 pinheads.
Who? Both of my parents or me and
no,
one parent?
Both our parents. Our parents. You should tip if you're sitting down and eating at a restaurant.
But some restaurants don't have tip vibes. Like a Chipotle is not a tip vibe. It's like you eat your food, you clean it up yourself.
No, they had whole get-ups. You would go and the Pizza Huts with the big
pizza. Oh my god. Okay, seriously.
They had the little hats on them. They looked like fucking huts. You would go in, you'd sit down, the waitress would come. They would always bring you water in the plastic pitchers.
Right. I'm starting to remember. I'm thinking in my head of a CC's pizza.
Yeah, I think you're thinking different, but Pizza Hut, you would have to go and sit down and you'd sit in the booths. I
just remember the little shakers.
Yeah, that too. But
I'm sorry, my parents didn't tip at Pizza Hut.
My dad, I would get this tiny little pizza for reading the books in 4th grade. My dad didn't get anything. I realize now because I don't think they had money, and he would let...
He didn't get no breadsticks? They got good breadsticks.
No, he wouldn't get anything else, and we would just split that little pizza together.
The personal pan?
Yeah.
Damn. This is...
Well, he would ask me, like, can I have some?
And what would you say?
I mean,
I do like what I say.
developed that habit.
Oh my gosh. Before we seriously talk about this book, Ben has a horrible habit. Horrible. I'll say, like, let's say we're going somewhere random. Starbucks. Let's just for shits and giggles. Hey Ben, I'm going to Starbucks. You want anything? No, I'm good. I go in Starbucks. I buy what I want. I probably ask again, are you sure you don't want anything, Ben? Nah, I'm great. I'm really fulfilled. I ate one grape at the house. And so I come back to the car. He's going to start eating half of what I brought without fail. So now I just buy 2 things. But then Ben doesn't buy 2 things when he buys me something. So he still just eats half of what he buys for me.
No, we're working on that.
We're working on that. We're working on that marriage therapy. All right, Ben, why don't you, we had something interesting happen. So every week we come on the podcast and we ask you to go do an Apple Podcast rating for us. Now this week we got in the queue an Apple Podcast rating, but I'll be honest, though we are very grateful to have received it, it wasn't really a rating on our show. It was more like a continuing dialogue of something we talked about. So Ben is going to take over from here and summarize what this person said. So we still wanted to give this person a shout out, but it wasn't specifically about the podcast. It was about a topic we discussed, and they wanted to do a deep dive, which is awesome.
Yeah, so Seti Walnut on November 13th, 2021, wrote, first of all, incredible, insightful conversations are happening. Found y'all on TikTok and had to jump on the podcast. Love it. Love y'all. Thank you for being here. So that is sort of a rating.
Yeah, that's a rating, yeah.
They gave us a rating, but then they went on to...
And this is a 5-star. Like, this, we fuck with this person. We want to continue this dialogue.
But they went on to comment about how they are Cherokee and they work in language revitalization. And in our conversation, Amber and I were talking about, in one of our last episodes, about how in the U.S. that the need to learn a new language is not as critical as it would be, say, in Europe or parts of Central America or where you speak Spanish and English. And they were just bringing up the point that actually there are lots of indigenous language speakers who do have to, in the U.S., who are like required to learn a language. And part of the reason that we don't have
so indigenous speakers that are required to learn a language. What do you mean?
English.
Okay.
Yeah. You know how
I thought you meant like when they go to school, they're required to learn like French, Spanish. That's what I thought.
No. And part of the reason, that we don't in the U.S. that we don't have this like requirement to speak another language, or a culture of learning multiple languages, really comes down to like the history of education, where you were required to learn English. And it made me think recently this PBS documentary on the Carlisle schools, where indigenous people were forced to go to, and they were literally, that idea of the Carlisle school was to, kill the Indian but save the man. That was a philosophy, and so that was something that they talked about in a really beautiful sort of short little essay that they left in their review. So thank you so much for that.
We'll post that on the Patreon as well, because it's definitely worth a read. It's just it's a lot for us to read right now, and we're already off task. So yes, we see you, we hear you, we want to continue this conversation. We're posting that on the Patreon. Thank you so much for filling out that review. Let's get into, that kind of reminds me of like learning the language of, critical race theory. It's like that debate, right? It's like people are like, we don't need to learn this. Why is this important? What's this indoctrination? It's like other race, like black children have had to learn this since the womb. Like you can learn it. This can be taught in schools to everyone's children, but whatever. Yes, so that rating specifically was in reference to our last episode about Atlantiques on Netflix. So be sure to watch Atlantiques and listen to episode, 60 of the podcast. So now let's talk about Hardears. You want to give a quick synopsis?
Yeah. Did you do the intro?
Yeah.
Oh, sweet.
I always intro the show, baby. Listen,
I
am a professional.
Wow. Anyway, so we read this amazing book called Hardears, a comic, by Matthew Clarke and Nigel Lynch. And what did you think about it, Amber? What did you like?
Oh, I loved it. I will also be, I'm super excited because, like I said last week on the pod, I'm going to get an opportunity to interview both of the authors. But if you're looking for just like graphic novels or comics to get into, this is a really great first step, because I know that it's a little intimidating for me to read some comics because they're a part of, I think, like this megatext is what you call it sometimes. Like I can't read one Marvel comic without the knowledge of like, but this is why this is an inside joke and this is an Easter egg and this is a continuing story of like, even House of Whispers was like sort of a part of a continuing Sandman series. So I really love that I could sort of read Hardears as a standalone. Besides that, like the art was super great. The stories were super enriching. I will say that there were a lot of stories in this book. It wasn't an anthology, but there were sort of like multiple stories compounded to one narrative story. So we'll piece that together. But overall, I really loved it. I sat down one day to read about 40 pages of it, and I looked up and I had read 120 pages. It's a comic, so it goes by really quickly, but I was here for it. What about you?
Yeah, no, there's this really cool structure where they give the glossary in the front of the book, and so you get a preview of what's going to happen in the book. And something that Amber has mentioned before, lots of people feel this way with science fiction or fantasy, that it can be super overwhelming, especially when it comes to world building. So the cool thing about this book, in the front, if you choose to, you can get sort of a preview of all the world building, like all the different creatures that are in here, all the different places, and it sort of breaks it down for you.
But it is a choice.
Yeah.
So I remember starting that choice, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to start diving in, and then I'm going to flip back and forth like I would any glossary.
Yeah, so they introduced the magic system called Vibes, which is essentially the life force, and it shows up in different ways. They introduce this idea of the land ship, which is people who play music and call back ancestral spirits that form a ship, and humans ride that ship to battle hurricanes, which are personified in here as like massive babies, almost like Attack on Titan type of thing. And so there's just lots of like really cool shit, and that it's very Afro-futuristic in that respect, right? It's taking things from the Caribbean, the islands there, and sort of adapting it in a science fiction fantastical idea. There's like these things called land sharks, which are basically cars, but they're sharks and they fly. It's just really cool, like exciting world building stuff, which is, I think, the best part of this whole book.
Yeah, it's like what we all thought the 2021 was going to be when we were kids. It's like flying cars and really cool outfits, like the Jetsons, like how our parents thought that was going to be the future. I really enjoyed this concept of vibes. If we could just speak a little bit about that for a second. It's like there's this one sort of like big bad businessman who is out to just like suck the soul or the vibes out of people, which is just, of course, like one big metaphor for what these fucking jobs do anyway. I was just talking to a friend of mine. Now that we're not going to spoil too much of it, but we will talk a little bit about just like things that this made me think about. And I think about how, like, the older I get, the more I'm realizing that I'm not going to retire from just one job like our parents did. I don't know if anybody who is a millennial is going to ever have worked as long as our parents did at one singular job. But my father recently, as in this summer, retired after working at the post office for 34 years. He's had that job my entire life. And now he's like at home waiting on his retirement to kick in. And he's like recently found out that his retirement is going to kick in for like 8 or 9 months, which of course is like kind of devastating for him. And I was just like in the moment, like, and see, that's why motherfuckers don't come to work on time. That's why motherfuckers take their sick days, because my dad, who never took a sick day, never took a mental health day, is like gave his heart and soul to this freaking job and did the right thing every day for 34 years. And at the end of the fucking day, his retirement checks are late. And this is why I'm not going to give a job and let a job suck out my soul and my vibes. Like, this is the reason. This is the reason I wake up and say no to people. I probably take that too far, I'd be saying no to shit, and you're like, Amber, we actually could have really used that gig. And I'm like, no, that didn't meet the rate. No. Now, what you got to say to that, Ben?
No, I think that's...
What did you just say?
I can't really say anything to it. It's your decision to pass up that money.
But okay, well, let's talk about that, Ben.
We don't have to talk about.
No, let's talk about it, Ben, right now, because like if somebody's not meeting your rate, like we've talked about this, how sometimes you sort of look at my income as like, Amber, like I'm holding down the foundational income, so everything that you bring in is just extras. I'm like, yeah, but they need to hit this rate. Like this is literally what I'm worth.
Yeah, I also think.
I'm not worth it.
No, ride the wave.
You side.
If they're not, until people are knocking down your door where the work is too much, you should probably accept things more often.
No.
Hey, listen, it's your decision. I mean, I supported you,
Why did you say past this? We got a baby on the way.
Anyway.
I'm not mad at you. I'm actually genuinely having fun. It's hard because if your job decided to pay you a different rate every month, you wouldn't feel the same way. It's like some months I did really well with pay. Some months I did really low with pay.
Yeah, it's pretty stressful. Yeah. Well, Mr. Harding, who's the villain of the story, is the one who sort of just abuses his workers, eventually turning them into these like mindless zombies almost, and they wear white face as well. They kind of have like the white, I mean obviously but the white face has white features. Is that stupid to say? It's like when people do blackface and just like exaggerate black features or whatever. Okay. No, I don't think it's stupid to say. Also, the writers are from the Barbados, and so a lot of it is Barbados inspired. They're Barbadian writers.
Yeah. And there's really great, if you're reading at the end of the story, I know we're bouncing around a little bit, but if you read at the end of the story, it goes into sort of more historical context of Barbados, because there was one part where they were like, the only thing people even know about Barbados is Rihanna. Like we wanted to sort of bring some more culture and life into these stories that we're capturing. So I really enjoyed like learning that part. Or, we don't get to learn about these like Saint Islands and things of that nature. Like we had that conversation with Cadwell Turnbull when we had him on the show as well. So it's really nice when these like really rich stories that are completely like published and created come out of like, our neighbors that are right there. Is that stupid to say?
No, not at all.
Okay. Because I sit here and think about when I used to teach high school, I had Haitian students, and obviously they would teach me way more about Haiti in the short time that they were there. In some cases, they're like, yeah, I came from Port-au-Prince when I was like 5 years old. Because right now, when we think about Haiti and other Caribbean countries, we do think about hurricanes, devastation, and people being deported from the U.S. violently.
Yeah, there's not this celebration of like the culture. And even though this is Barbados inspired, again, this is still part of the Caribbean and celebrating, the culture here. There's some like really cool other world building things here where the bulldozers here are not called bulldozers. They're called crab dozers.
I love that.
So you're like riding a massive crab. There is this whole idea that the earth and farming is very important. It's critical. It's eventually what's used to defeat the villainy of this story.
Why don't you give a quick plot summary? I feel like you were doing that.
Oh, yeah. So the story does start with a hurricane that leaves essentially a power vacuum, and the land ships are basically all destroyed and sent out to sea. And the tuk-tuk sort of drum instruments are lost, which is used to control these land ships. And so Mr. Harding uses his power, uses capitalism to start hiring people, and he ends up union busting and destroying all the unions. But when he takes over the island of Jouvert, he ends up turning his workers into these zombies.
Aren't we all just zombies?
And then that's
capitalism.
That's discovered by Bolo and Zara, our main characters. Bolo is sort of the part of the Guild of Agriculture, and the two of them have to work against Mr. Harding. And then one of the land ships that were destroyed, one of the captains comes back and has to, go through the pirate islands and deal with pirates and their shenanigans. And then they all converge at the end to fight against Mr. Harding. And that's, generally the whole plot. The plot I didn't really find as compelling as like the cool stuff they were doing with the fish that are underneath the sea. At one point, we find that like a pirate had sex with like this goddess, this underworld sea goddess, and
like
she
had Ursula vibes. Yeah,
and she had 3 kids, and they were massive squids. Like I just was wondering how their sex worked. Like how do you have like? I'm just thinking that if you were to have a baby and the baby came out with like a Cthulhu head, like how terrifying that would be.
I know. It's kind of like in Shrek when like Donkey and Dragon have kids. You're like, what? How? Okay.
Yeah, this idea of mixing and like terrible unsacred mixing and how that's going to create like monsters is very much a thing in like horror and in the zeitgeist of like, in American politics in which black and white people having babies turns into like a monster of some sort.
Speaking of, why don't you share with people what you want to do with our nursery? Because we just painted our nursery yellow this weekend. And so I've been having all of these like, let's do a cute little baby animal safari.
Yeah, no. For sure. I would love to do like a Stephen King inspired nursery maybe. Or like, I don't know. What else? Like some sort of horrific nursery type of thing. We can do so Stephen King, or I was thinking we could do, maybe I would go with Star Wars or like a Pennywise theme.
I thought the Star Wars was like, which, I mean, it's not that I don't like Star Wars. It's just that we already painted it yellow. So I was like, where do we go from here? And then when you said, let's do a it-themed baby room with blood and little Georgie, I was just like, how did we get here?
We could do a Dune inspired room. All right, talking about, you did repaint the baby's room. I helped you. It's really beautiful. It's like this vanilla bean, not vanilla bean,
pale yellow.
Yeah, it's like the vanilla flower.
It's like lemonade. If you had a lemonade, it would be that color.
Really, and in this book,
and Ben wants to splatter blood all over the walls.
That'd be great. In this book, Hardears, it's so great because the characters in this book, they're all like black, but they have like green hair, and they're you can tell like that a black artist made this, and so that was probably like super cool for you, Amber. Like, what did you think about that?
Everything. It was, it was Black Panther all over again. It obviously was not the same story, but it's how we all felt as Black adults going to see Black Panther. It's like, this is incredibly well drawn, and we get to be squids, and we get to be moon gazers, and we get to be pirates. I don't actually think I've ever read a book with a black pirate in it that I saw visually.
There are also 2 kinds of pirates. You have the pirates that sail in the sea, but then there are land pirates. Have you heard of land pirates before, Amber?
No.
I feel like you would be a good land pirate. So
why?
a land
Do
pirate.
They get to eat all day?
No, a land pirate is someone who sort of just sits down and has this bright shining face and lures ships into their harbor that ends up to be really dangerous and have rocks jutting out, and then you hit the rocks and you crash. And then you go and raid all their stuff. So do you understand that? So it's sort of like
I would be good at sitting, luring people in, and then just hitting them.
Yeah. Well,
when they're vulnerable.
You would set like booby traps for them. So as their ships are coming in.
Why would I be better at that than like smashing up shit?
Well, you're a little bit
at sea?
inactive currently. Like you would be more of like, you have such a glowing, beautiful, smiling face, like a lighthouse. And so what these pirates do is that they create like a lighthouse, or they create light and create the illusion like that this harbor is safe, like come in, but the harbor is actually very dangerous. And so that is what a land pirate does.
So is just a metaphor for like, you think I lured you in thinking like, it's super safe here. I'm so beautiful. Like, come on over here. And then when you were frail and weak, I attacked.
You robbed me of all my jewels. And
I have a way of doing that sometimes.
no, I'm just kidding. But yeah, what I would prefer to be a land pirate because you don't have to go on sea. I get really seasick.
You do get very seasick.
I get very seasick. And so I'm not a big fan of going on the boat.
You get just like motion sick in general.
Yeah,
like,
I get very
if a car is going too fast in the back. But yeah, it was really cool to see. There, like Ben said earlier, there's this like these drummers where you hit these magical drums and it'll just do like a huge ricochet explosion if you have the power, but you have to have like the whole drum set together.
And that lures the ancestral spirits who sort of fuse together to create this massive ship.
Yeah, I thought that was really cool. There's also just a lot of badass women in these stories. Like obviously there are some really tough men and stuff, but like you can see just women as captain of ships and women running it and women
pirate
squids
queens.
And pirate queens. It's like they did a really great job with their female characters in this story as well as their male characters. I just think the character development was really great. Even Mr. Harding, the villain, as Ben is flipping through the book, even Mr. Harding, the villain, got an origin story. As I was saying earlier, there were actually like so many stories piled into this, to sometimes to a point where I was like, oh wait, who is this character again? You know, hits the glossary at the front of the book. So I really enjoyed that they, like, you can just tell a lot of love went into this Afro-Caribbean fantasy for sure.
Yeah, I hope that they create more. I think they have the potential to create more.
They set it up like it's like the story has not ended.
Yeah, it felt to me like 3 really solid stories. Like you get Bolo and Zara's incident. We're introduced to them, and you get the hurricane, right? That's the first story. And consequently the rise of Mr. Harding. And then the second part is you get the land ship and the pirates, and then the third act is you get the final battle between Mr. Harding and Bolo and the rest of the island. And that's the story, folks. Everyone should go check it out. It's just, if it's beautifully drawn. There is these really like pastel, beautiful colors.
Pastel.
And
I kind of like you said that. There's also so in the beginning of the story, Bolo, the man, is like sort of lusting after Zara and thinking she's a bad bitch. And he also like wins this little award. I mean, it's to her, it's like, what you got your little award? So she wins this award. He wins an award, and like he's like flaunting that he won it, and she's kind of like, I don't know what that is. Like it's just like classic, like I'm feeling this girl and she's not paying me any mind, and you quickly sort of get over their love story. Like it's not really about their love story. They just sort of like team up and help save each other's lives and help save the island. But it's not this like uber gushy, like I would kill these pirates for you. It's none of that. So if you're thinking like we don't need a love story in an action comic book, like you don't really get that in the best way. But like graphics are out of this world. Like this also wasn't if you're newer to comics, this wasn't hard to follow like the panels.
Yeah.
Because sometimes, like, again, some of those panels are like, wait, should I go all the way across? Should I start going down? Like, it was a solid graphic novel, and I'm super honored to be able to talk to the authors about their journey. It makes me feel like we can write a graphic novel. Maybe they just made it look so easy.
Yeah. The other thing is the Jumbies is taking, like, traditional stories of folklore of the Caribbean. So the Duin show up here, Succulent, which are like skin folk. I would say if anyone has read Nalo Hopkinson's Skin Folk, you'll recognize similar like words and phrases. The Moon Gazer as well, these mythical creatures. I mean, it's just so fucking fun. Yeah.
All right, we're going to just take a quick commercial break, and then we will get back with the show. All right. We're back. Before we wrap up the show, Ben, any sighs for the book?
Yeah.
I have to say them here because, I got to talk to the authors. I ain't gonna be like, yeah, why'd y'all do this?
Oh, yeah. I think I am curious why they decided to, like, put so much in one book. Like they could have really, stretched some of it out and saved the big bad Mr. Harding for like later issues.
Do you think people do that because they're like, it's like TV shows where you're like, we don't know if we're going to get renewed for season 2.
Yeah,
so let's
probably.
Just put it out here.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what their situation was. There were some like body proportions that were very disorienting. I was like, whoa.
Really?
Yeah.
Like where? Let me see.
I'm trying
We'll
to
show it if you're watching this on YouTube.
and
we'll show the Patreon.
Yeah, like, for example, Mr. Harding gets really, really big very, very quickly. They reference this massive tree, almost like the massive tree from Avatar. But
okay.
I would have liked to seen more of that. So, like, yeah, he sort of...
You didn't like that?
I mean,
yeah,
it was
hold it
cool, but I didn't recognize what was going on so quickly. You get the...
Yeah, he became like a spider.
Yeah, you get the avian bird creatures, but I would have liked to seen more of them. I felt like at times it felt a little rushed. Like they could have taken some more of their time, right? Like the best part of this is the world building. And if they spent more time with, showing us underwater or taking us, to different places, I think ultimately, that is their hope, to go different places in the future, for sure. But yeah, it felt a little bit, like avians. I would have liked to see more of the avian world.
Okay, show that camera the avians. Yeah.
Yeah.
Pull it. Do you see the camera? Cute. Vibey. All right. Well, Ben's showing a little bit of that for the YouTube. And I would also say the glossary at the beginning kind of set me off. Like it not set me off, but I was just like, wait, let me, I don't even know who these characters are yet. It's like, let me learn about these characters first. And then, so I definitely think I want to ask the authors about like what went into the decision of putting the glossary at the front of the book. Because it's not just a glossary. It's like, it's the term and then it's like a paragraph of text. Like it's not just like, this is an avian, one definition, this is a whatever. It's so the glossary kind of takes up like the first 20 pages of the book. So I started trying to read them and then I was like, you know what, I gotta just jump into the story because I can't remember all these characters. I don't even know the story yet. Yeah,
the Moongazer is so weird and cool looking that if you read about him in the glossary, you're like, oh, I guess this is coming at some point. So it felt a little spoilery.
A little spoily.
As well. So I was like, but again, it could, assuage a lot of like anxiety if you're reading a comic book and you're introducing all these new terms and realms and factions. And so that could be a nice way of getting around that maybe.
Yeah. I think front of the book is fine. Just it needs to be concise. Yeah. That would be my only critique. Also, last thing I really, really love, this isn't a sigh, since we do have some visuals with the podcast now, I really love that you can turn the book upside down and still have a visual.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that?
Yeah, I noticed that.
Let me just show the YouTube camera while you say what I'm showing. Make it like the Price is Right.
So you have our main heroes, and then you flip it over, and you see the, the pipes, the oil pipes, or, the steam. What are those things called?
Steamworks, the bathhouse.
No, not steam. When you have like, oh my God.
Then you should go to the bathhouse.
Well, you see our villain if you flip the page over.
It's a metaphor for villains like to be at the bathhouse. I'm totally kidding. No, the bathhouse is lit, so I hear. You should go there one day.
What do you call that? The rising that smokes comes out.
Steampunk.
No, not steam. I mean, it feels steampunk. What's that fucking word?
You're seriously taking time to look this up right now?
No,
smoke, smog, pollution.
Smoke stacks. They're smokestacks. Oh my God. Wow, I feel like a fucking idiot.
You're just sleepy, baby. We did this. We typically do this like during the day, and it is 9:15 p.m. Are you gonna be okay?
No.
Why? Let's talk. Let's just have some therapy right now. What's bothering you?
My back really hurts.
Your back hurts. What else? Because you've been having pregnancy symptoms out the wazoo.
I didn't stretch today. I should stretch today,
baby.
Yeah. Well, in conclusion,
wait. Damn, you ready to go?
I'm ready. Well, my back really hurt. I'm like slunched over.
All right, give me a kiss.
I need to find better chairs. Oh
give
God.
Me kisses real quick.
We need a studio.
We need a lot.
I recently watched an interview with Kendrick Lamar in the Breakfast Club, and I said, wow, that'd be really cool to be Kendrick Lamar.
Which part? To be Charlemagne? To have the whole
Charlemagne
studio?
is
to have
such
the dollars?
a dick. He's so fucking brutal at times.
But he's kind of like charming and captivating. Like he's not my target audience, but I'm like, I know the people that love Charlemagne the God.
Yeah, and he just says things to be insightful. Right? Like he doesn't really, he was giving this interview.
Yes.
And he was just trying to,
He's like a Wendy Williams, but the man version, so nobody hates him. They're like, he's just speaking the truth, you know. It's like, he's baiting people, and people take the bait every time. He's really good at his job. One of the guys that I had sex with in college, I rolled over one day and saw that he had Charlemagne's book, and I was like, God, I don't think I can keep doing this. I can't keep having sex with you. You read Charlemagne the God's book called Black Privilege.
Wow.
It's probably good.
Yeah, probably. I mean, I think
good,
Charlemagne is insightful, and he asks probing questions, but he does it in a way that...
I Charlemagne the guided you earlier today on the show.
Yeah. Quite a bit.
Stressed.
You do that quite a bit.
Come give me a kiss. You look really tired.
Yeah.
I'm going to let you warp up the show. With that being said, why don't you warp up the show, my love?
In conclusion, go ahead and buy Hardears, which I found out means stubborn. And I'm going to start calling Amber stubborn. Be hard ear at
You're going to
time.
call me stubborn or hard ears?
Hard ears. Be hard ears towards capitalism or towards businesses that puts, wealth and profit over the well-being of workers. And this book really does an amazing job of exploring that and just creating these mythical worlds and just fucking awesome shit. So go ahead and buy Hardears at your local comic book store by Matthew Clarke and Nigel Lynch.
Also, make people pay your rate. If they don't want to pay you your rate, even if your husband doesn't think you're worth your rate, you tell those motherfuckers no. Right, babe?
Yeah, no, don't listen to your husband at times.
Thanks, Ben.
Bye. Bye, listeners.
I'm cutting you off now.
Support the Sci-Fi site. The
show has ended.
Subscribe.
Not you having all of the...
Subscribe, push the thumb up button.
Write energy at the end
comment,
of the show.
Comment where comments
Ben reads all the comments.
I do. It's part of my job. So
no,
I can
it's
know.
Not.
Yeah,
it's
so
toxic,
it's called fan
man.
engagement. So you
but
understand.
You don't engage. You read and scroll.
No, I read and scroll.
And you breathe life
then I
mindless,
write down
unsolicited advice.
No.
Yes, you do. Some of them are really
joyful. Sometimes you should read comments to understand what is. Okay.
No, it's like pollution. It's like you should walk in the polluted streets with your mouth wide open. It's like, no.
No, sometimes you should analyze things even if it comes from like a dark, disturbing past. Not everyone has the capability to read comments and have them just slide off like water,
So are you testing your... Like, what do you get out of reading comments? At this point, I'm not even going to cut this. I'm just going to let people...
No, I don't... I get what people are thinking, how people interpreted what we did.
But some people, I don't really leave a lot of comments on people's stuff. And I will think something is super hilarious. I'll reshare it multiple times. I'll follow the person and I'll never comment. I'm just like, this is quality content. Thank you. Well, and keep going.
Yeah, I don't comment on things. I do find comments interesting. I find them fascinating when you're commenting and what people are saying. I do read them. I read probably the majority of our comments, even if there's 30,000 comments on something. I will read every single one. I like to know what people are thinking, how they're interacting with us.
Why do you care?
Because based on what they're saying,
I
find it fascinating.
Generally perceived, but I just cannot.
Yeah, I don't know if you have the tough skin.
Yeah, well, they're not talking about you.
Yeah,
they're talking about me.
Right.
So you like seeing people drag your wife?
No, I did not say that.
Are you secretly commenting?
Are
you one of my trolls?
I like reading about, I don't know, just because you find the value of reading about something. If you read a book about a terrible time in history, it doesn't mean that you like that time in history, but you do find it valuable.
Yeah, but I don't read that book every day.
I don't curate my space.
I
don't read it every day, but I do read a lot of the comments.
hush so I can finish the end of the show. Anyway, this episode, next Sunday, we are recording like top of the morning to you. All right.
Yeah, before you can get like mad at me. If the day goes on
I
longer.
can get mad at you at 4 a.m. Baby, you know this, Bart.
Only if I'm coming in at 3 a.m. That's the only time you'd get mad at me.
I wasn't going to put you out like that, but you've been acting a straight plum fool since when Ben found out I was having a baby, he was like, great, I got till April to party. And I've been like, let's nest. I've
been
pick
nesting.
Out paint swatches and paint and do a baby safari and go to parenting classes. And Ben's like, party. So we've been having some.
I haven't been partying. I just haven't changed my lifestyle as much as you would like.
Yeah, but you're also like out late.
So occasionally, like it's one night.
And occasionally there's alcohol around.
Occasionally, because I'm not drinking at home.
So you gotta hit it.
I don't have to hit it, but if I go out and I see someone's show, or if I'm trying to like play board games, which I don't drink at board games, they're too complicated. But I do have to cut my time playing board games. It has been, twice a week, where it's like one day played board games, another day maybe go see a show, and then occasionally, once a month I go to book club. So sometimes that could go up, two nights a week, 3 nights a week, where I'm coming home very late and you're going to bed by yourself. And I recognize that's a problem and I shouldn't do that. So yeah, I'll do better.
Did you get that off your chest, baby?
I mean, trust me, you put a lot on my chest to get off. You sort of chewed me out, appropriately so. But I'm just letting you know, there's work to do.
Are you making a commitment right now in front of our listeners to come home at a decent hour?
Yeah, I'll come. Yeah, obviously, I'll start coming home at a decent hour.
Are you nervous about being a father? Is that why you're running?
I'm not
away
nervous.
From your family?
No, I'm not running away. I'm not nervous at all.
It's still a hot mic.
No, I'm more.
So you don't want this family?
I'm excited. I'm not. Wait, what?
I'm Charlemagning the guiding you. So you're not a family man. That would be him.
It depends how you mean by family man.
Like you're not like Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage is a terrible example.
He was in a movie called Family Man.
I know.
Okay. I'm kind of a comedian. But that's all right.
I don't walk around with a briefcase. Listen, we're not your normal family.
You're a briefcase versus a backpack. Like, you think you're so much better than Nicolas Cage.
I am so much better than fucking Nicolas Cage. I do like his movie Mandy, and I liked The Color from Outer Space. He made this new one about Pig.
Can you do me a favor real quick?
Pig. Have you heard this movie called Pig?
No. Could you hold your breath real quick? Hold your breath. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of the Sci-Fi Podcast. Up next, we are interviewing Patty Jackson. Patricia Jackson just dropped her new book, Foraging a Nightmare, and guess what? We get to talk to her about it. So be sure to check out episode 62 of the Sci-Fi Sigh and pick up your copy of Foraging a Nightmare. Those will be available starting November 23rd, and we will see y'all next week for the show. Bye, y'all. Now finish what you got to say.